parents have little or no responsibility for the actions of their children. If we are serious about addressing gun violence, then we need to first get serious about bringing the paddle and prayer back to our public schools. In today's America, we have 18.6 million fatherless kids, more than any nation on earth. And we all know that kids are 20 times more likely to have a run-in with law enforcement if they're fatherless. We do not even teach the 10 Commandments in our public schools anymore, much less hold our children accountable to them.
Jack Brewer with a powerful plea there to end gun violence during a hearing on the Uvalde school shooting. He's calling for more action in public schools, as you heard, urging leaders to bring prayer back into the classroom to help mitigate a crisis of violence among young people. Jack Brewer, founder of the Jack Brewer Foundation and commissioner on the social status of black men and boys, is with me in focus in person. Good to see you. First of all, we were talking off camera about an unreal situation inside that hearing room. What was that like? What was the response?
You know, as a man of God, it was dark to hear my message received and responded to by Congressman Ralph Nader and others as idiocy. Everything I was saying was right from Scripture. I prayed before I sat down, and I was there with love in my heart, really trying to plead to the American people to start understanding what's going on in so many of our underserved communities. You know, and I asked everyone there, they're there for crime. It's the Judicial Committee. How many of them have actually been inside the prisons, actually talking to those that are pulling the trigger? How many times have they gone into the inner city communities where kids are faced with carrying illegal guns in those type of environments? And none of them answered me. And so it really told me the spiritual setting that I was in. You know, everyone up there wants to talk about equity and equality, but we can't have that debate unless we can establish morality and righteousness and spirituality. And so if we're not going to do that, are we really trying to get to the root cause of these issues?
You know, let me ask this, because what you called for, the paddle and prayer, those were the words that got picked up on. We'll start with the prayer part of it and the spirituality. There is a pushback in this country, and I feel it. I just wrote a bestseller on faith, and I couldn't have seen that happen. God made that happen. The Lord did. But what I've realized is when Gallup and Pew Research look at how less faithful we are and how much we don't believe in God and our actions that are coming because of that, it's understandable that you would have gotten pushback in that very place. But they're not taking in the information that you're bringing. They're stuck on that word prayer.
Exactly. They're stuck on prayer, and they're denying the statistics. If you want to get away from the spirituality and talk about statistics, you will see that fatherless homes are going to increase our prison population. You'll see that fatherless homes are going to create more mass shootings, not less. And so 82% of mass shooters are fatherless. So if you don't want to talk about spirituality, you don't want to talk about bringing families together, and you want to talk about staying to the data, like so many on the left want to talk about all the time, then you would say that spirituality works. Look at the reading and math proficiency levels of kids that go to Christian schools. It is through the roof higher, probably 50-60% higher than inner city schools. If you go into the prisons where I teach every week, you go into the prisons and you see those inmates that have taken Christian rehabilitation programs. Most of them get out of prison and they never go back. And so let's look at the data. The data will show you the truth. And
I appreciate that from you, because I know how often you go to visit these young men and women. I mean, I've seen on your Instagram, you're with everybody. It's not just men committing crimes. But what you're saying is, and what we see as a nation, when you say 82% of mass shooters are fatherless, those are men that we've lost in our society. The paddle was another thing, though, and I want to ask you about that, because we have a situation where unions in this country were complicit in keeping our kids out of the classroom. First it was during the pandemic. First it was, well, we need vaccinations for all the teachers, and then that wasn't enough, and then they just wouldn't come for it. Not every single teacher, but the people who represent them, who are heavily tied to Democrats in this country. So when you say the paddle, I don't know, as a parent, I want that group of people touching my kid.
I agree to a point. I think that in many of our public schools, we have teachers that we haven't armed with enough disciplinary push behind them. It's the message that you send to a kid that knows that he has no consequence. If you come to my youth center, where I have about 50 kids, and my kids know that we don't spare the rod, what that means is that school or that teacher better not call Coach Jack and tell me that you're there disrespecting them. If that doesn't happen, you will be gone. And so it's consequences. When kids don't have any consequence for their actions, and you see so many kids now that just don't get in trouble anymore, they let them go right back to school. And so we have to do something when kids are fatherless. Kids need to have that straight, hard hand in their home. I carried an illegal gun when I was young. The reason I didn't pull the trigger is because my dad would have beat the brakes off of me. And so those are the type of things that people may not want to hear it. But if we don't look back 20, 30 years ago, why was it so different? Why was there much more morality and respect? That's because people got whoopings at home back then.
I do want to ask this because I know that you'll get pushback on meeting violence with violence. And then talking about prayer too. What is it that you want to see Congress do at this point? Because again, some in this country, I'm part of it. I don't know that the teachers who were making the decisions through their unions to sit home are the people who are necessarily going to make good decisions when it comes to discipline for the kids, which is part of the reason why we've gotten to where we are now. I'm sure you've seen the videos from over the weekend. Lawrence Jones covered this, where kids were getting out of control and threatening teachers and throwing punches.
Well, see, those type of decisions are made from an administrative perspective. Usually when you go into a school, the principals, the vice principal, and those individuals are the overachievers from the teacher population. Most of those people are really good people. I can take you to some inner city schools where if you get to the point of a principal, you've earned your stripes. All I'm saying is let's give some authority to these people that you're asking to take care of everyone else's problems. Parents don't have any responsibility anymore. Their kids can go out and steal and destroy a community, and the parents never have to be before a judge facing anything. I think that's wrong.
Wow, that is powerful. And the way that you describe that hearing on Congress is dark spiritually, is just something for all of us to think about. Jack Brewer, thank you so much. God bless you.